Welcome to the channel. This is Techno Scope.
Welcome everybody to Thoughts with Technoscope. That title might change. Anyway, I wanted to discuss the PlayStation ending physical games coming in January 2028. This is kind of a random impromptu video. I finally have my recording gear together again, and I thought I'd test it out by recording this video here. Last week, Sony came out and announced the disappointing news that PlayStation is ending physical games coming January 28th. That is extremely disappointing to me. If we will rewind, I guess probably about 10 years at this point, a friend of mine made the point to me that digital games on consoles is a bad concept and it's kind of stupid. And the reason for that is that consoles are not guaranteed to be here forever. They have a life cycle. They come, they end, they go away. And if you have a digital game tied to a digital store, that store has to exist in perpetuity, essentially forever, for you to play those games. So if that store goes away, then the games go away. So, and he had a good point with that, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna stop buying digital games. I had only started buying them shortly before then, but he had a great point with that. So I went back to buying buying physical games. I buy them on disc, or if I'm playing Switch, the cartridge. I do not buy key cards. That's a different topic we can discuss later or in a different video. But I buy games physically, and it's only been recently that I have kind of stopped. Now, I will make this point. If there's a great sale on a digital game, I will buy that game digitally. But if there's a physical counterpart to it, I will always buy the physical counterpart as well later on, like if I can find a great deal on it. And there are great deals to be had on physical games, which I think is one of the reasons they want to end the practice. I love to have the physical game, even if I have the digital version, just because I know that if my internet is gone, which, because of recent struggles, I've been there, and the internet is out, things do not work. And if you don't have a physical game, you may not be able to play it. And it's weird that it just come to light not too long ago that PlayStation, when you buy a digital game, they have a check-in that comes like a month after you buy the game to make sure that you still own it. And if you don't have internet to do that check-in, then you lose access to the game. They've said that it's only that one time. We haven't proven otherwise, but that's problematic for a lot of reasons. But if you have a physical game, even if, there's a lot of people that complain, well, you got to have day one updates when you get a physical game. Okay, that's fine. But the game ships playable. It might be broken. There might be stuff that doesn't work right. It's almost guaranteed these days. But you can still take the disc out as long as it's not one of those that is internet is required for install. And I tend not to buy those games. Those are usually multiplayer games anyway. I will take those discs, and even if you don't have the updates, you can still play the game. So there are a lot of reasons why not to do that. Now, just recently, I guess Sony wanted to drop all the bad news all at one time. They removed 551 movies from their library. And if you owned one of these movies, if you owned it, you lost access to it. And I don't know what their definition of own is. It's obviously not congruent with what the dictionary says, just like their definition for purchase is not congruent, because when you purchase something, you own it. And that's a problem. Now, somebody tried to make the argument on social media that when you purchase a game, you are purchasing the license, and the license dictates what's going on. Okay, first of all, yes, you're purchasing a license with any game, with any IP, no matter what it is. Even if I run a photography and video business outside of doing YouTube, and when somebody hires me to do something, they're not literally buying the photos and videos that I shoot. They're buying a license to access that content and use it how they see fit. And it's the same thing with these games. When you buy the game, you buy a license. But here's the kicker. You do not lose access to that license just because the company decides, hey, we don't want to service it anymore. When you buy the license, you own the license. And the thing is, the license doesn't go away. You still own the license. So even though they removed the content, you have purchased the license, so you still have the right to that content. And there's a lot of sentiment going around now that if purchasing is not owning, then piracy is not stealing. And I mean, that's kind of a double-edged sword, but that's kind of where we're gonna have to go. I mean, this is America. I'm literally recording this July 4th, 2026, 250 years after this country declared its independence from Britain or England, whatever it was going by at the time. And we basically said we had enough of being treated that way. And it's coming back around again, and we're going to have to declare our independence from corporations. And there's a lot of people, or a lot of politicians, that are trying to say that corporations have more power than the consumers, and corporations get to say how we live and how we do things. No, that is not true. We bought these games, and we own these games. We own the license to them, to use them, to see how use the games how we see fit. And I know there are, there's the DMCA, which is problematic in itself. But I don't care. If I buy the license to something, I will use it how I see fit, as long as I'm not, doing anything like distributing it to other people. But if it's my game, I will use the game how I see. Now, let me put it this way. The DMCA has a rule in there that says you cannot break digital locks, which is obviously put in because corporations paid for it to be there. But here's the problem. If I buy a car and I decide, hey, I don't want these locks in this car anymore, I want to change all the locks in the car, I can do that. That is my right. And the corporation that sold me the car has no say over that. But if I get a PlayStation and it has a digital lock on there, and I break that digital lock, guess what? I could possibly be prosecuted and sent to prison for it. Does that make any kind of sense? As far as I'm concerned, that's an unconstitutional section of that law. It shouldn't be there, and there's no way that if somebody actually challenged the constitutionality of that it would actually pass the muster. That needs to be removed. So I can take a PlayStation, I can do whatever I want with the PlayStation. I can destroy it, I can burn it, I can, shred it to pieces, and all that's perfectly legal. But the moment I break the digital lock, we got a problem all of a sudden. So anyway, You buy the license. The license does not go away just because the company decides to remove the content. You still own the license. So you still have a right to that content. And I would die on that hill. I don't care what you say. I don't care what anybody else says. Once you buy the license, you own the license. You have the right to that content. And that's it. That's it. Point blank, period. It's a purchase, not a temporary rental, not a lease agreement or anything of that matter. It's a purchase. You purchase the license. Once you purchase something, it is yours. And if they want to say that it's not purchasing, then they should make that change on their stores, and they should stop using that word because it is in the dictionary already defined, and there's no way that we're going to sit here and say that, hey, a purchase is not a purchase. No, you should have made that clear years ago. I'm sorry. So anyway, where are we going from this? I'm out. Once the physical games stop coming, I am no longer buying PlayStation games. Microsoft has already been dabbling in this, so I seriously doubt they're going to be our saviors. But when the day comes and the purchases stop coming, there's no way I'm just going to keep buying PlayStation games. Because, matter of fact, Sony is the worst offender so far in this matter. They are the only one so far that has been ripping tons of movies away from people. Microsoft ended their sales of movies and content, but you can still access anything that you already purchased, even though you can't buy anymore. If you have other stores linked to Microsoft, you can still access those other stores through their content. You just cannot buy from Microsoft new content. So I don't know. It seems short-sighted on Sony's part to allow purchases, but then have lose a license of some kind or agreement that they had, and then decide to remove all the content. You should have had that in place before you allowed purchases. Because if you didn't have access to that content in perpetuity, then you had no right to sell it in the first place. And I hope that point is made in court somewhere. You didn't have a right to sell it. That's like me going to somebody and renting their house for 5 years and then selling it to somebody else. And then after 5 years saying, oh, hey, you got to move out. I'm sorry, I never actually owned the house. I was just renting it from somebody else. But you have to move out now because the lease is up. That point needs to be made in court. That should be illegal. And it probably is if somebody connects the right dots. But for me personally, physical GameStop on a console, I'm out, because Sony cannot be trusted with digital stores. And even if they could be trusted with digital stores, why would I choose the PlayStation as the console that I want to stick with? Think about this. If you're going to look back at all the history of games out of the two major consoles that are out there, which one has the better back library? Because I can get an Xbox Series X and play games all the way back to the original Xbox. You cannot do that with the PlayStation. You cannot play anything before PlayStation 4 on a PlayStation 5. You can even play PlayStation 3 games. Well, I take it back. You can play PlayStation 3 games if you buy a subscription to a service that they offer. Even if you own PlayStation 3 games, which I do, you cannot stick them in a PlayStation 5 and play those games. You have to have a subscription to that service, and the game that you want to play has to be on that service. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Offer backwards compatibility. Well, I guess they don't care anymore, but they should have been. They should have been doing it. So we're losing functionality because we're not going to be able to play those games. We're not going to be able to play backwards compatible games, or I guess there's not going to be backwards compatibility. You're not going to be able to play PlayStation 4 games on the PlayStation 6 if the PlayStation 6 does not have a disc drive. If you have the digital game, and if Sony decides not to remove those digital games, you'll probably be able to play those. But I'm not going down that road. I'm not about to start investing hundreds or thousands of dollars in digital games that might be ripped away from me one day. They've already proven they cannot be trusted. I will not trust them any further. So we're losing that backwards compatibility. We're also going to lose the ability to play disc. And this is the first. This is going to be a first once they have no more disc drive. Since the very first PlayStation, you were able to play CDs, and that was a defining moment in gaming, that you were able to enjoy your other entertainment on these consoles, and that's kind of what made Sony's PlayStation in the first place. There was nothing really defining about the original PlayStation other than the fact that they used CDs. If it wasn't for that, then the Nintendo 64 would have killed them and buried them. And even the Dreamcast would have killed them and buried them. The thing that won them over was that they had CD compatibility on the PlayStation 1, DVD compatibility on the PlayStation 2, when DVD players were expensive and hard to come by. Blu-ray functionality on the PlayStation 3, even though the console was ridiculously expensive at the time, like $600 brand new. But at the time, and I was a TV salesman when they first came out, so your options were buy a $600 PlayStation or buy a $1,000 standalone Blu-ray player that did nothing else. So the PlayStation 3 was still a great bargain, even though it was super expensive for a console. PlayStation 4, Blu-ray capability, and with the PlayStation 5, 4K, you might have been able to do it on the PS4. As far as a Pro goes, I'm not sure about those. I'm not sure when they got 4K capability, but not really a thing. And by the way, I will always make this point that Xbox, when it comes to things outside of gaming, absolutely murders the PlayStation. There's hands down the best entertainment console there is when it comes to things outside of gaming. The experience is so much better on Xbox. Even how it integrates with your entertainment center and how it controls the other devices, and how you can use like Google or an Echo and basically tell it Alexa or Google, turn on the Xbox, open this app on the Xbox. It can do that kind of stuff. It absolutely murders the PlayStation when it comes to capabilities outside of gaming. It's not a slouch on gaming either. It's just that Microsoft has been making a lot of stupid mistakes. But you're going to lose something that's been really defining the PlayStation since the PlayStation was first introduced. And at the point that loses the disc capability, what makes it better than a Steam machine? And I know the Steam machine is not going to be cheap. It's going to be more expensive, but there's a reason for that. It's more capable than a PlayStation. It has more capabilities. And a Steam machine is going to be able to play games from decades ago, while the PlayStation 5 can still only play PlayStation 4 games or PlayStation 3 games if you pay the right thing, pay the right people, and have the right service. So honestly, I don't know. I don't see any way that the PlayStation continues being a dominant force without the disc. Yes, it has its games, but are the exclusives on the PlayStation going to be enough to continue to keep it a dominant force? Because think about this. There's only a handful of titles that Sony has that are must-haves. And, God of War, Spider-Man, and some of those other titles that they have, they're great games, but who's going to spend $1,000 on this console? They can only play the latest handful of games, whereas you can buy a Steam machine or a PC and access decades of games, and most of the AAA titles that are released come to PC at some point or another. Most of them on release day, some of them a little bit after. But there's really no differentiating factor. A PlayStation 6 without a disc drive is a PC that is locked into into an ecosystem that you cannot escape from. There really is no point in having it unless you just must absolutely, if you're willing to spend $2,000 so that you can play the next God of War game after the one that's about to come. I just see absolutely no way that that's actually worth the money. Will Microsoft save us? No. I'm just gonna say that now. No, they're not gonna save us. Microsoft already started dabbling in releasing their major titles without disc. Hellblade 2, its reception hasn't been great, but it was a highly anticipated game, and they released the game without a physical copy. And I was so upset. Imagine having your library on your shelf, and you have part 1 of this game, and you're expecting to put part 2 right next to it. And all of a sudden they release the game with no physical copy. What am I doing? What do I do now? What is the problem? How do I reconcile this? The only way to get that game is to get the digital copy. And so I eventually got the digital copy, but after they dropped the price to $12 because I wasn't going to pay full price for that. I don't have a physical copy. The only way I'm buying digital games is if you sell them to me dirt cheap, pennies on the dollar. Period. Because you can take that game away from me at any time. I'm paying for limited access, is the way I feel. There's no way that 100 years from now these stores are going to be around, but those discs will be, and NES cartridges are still going to be around 100 years from now. But the stores that they're running right now will not be there. Think about it. Somebody has to pay for those servers to run. So no, I don't accept digital as the way to go. Steam will probably still be around. And the big thing about that is that 100 years from now, if Steam is still around, you'll probably be able to play games that came out in the early 2000s on whatever PC you have. Because that's just the nature of PC. But not in a locked ecosystem like a PlayStation 6. It's not going to happen. So no, if this is where gaming is going, if physical media is going away completely, then I'm just going back to PC. There's no reason to stick to a locked in ecosystem. There's just no reason to do it. Let's take a look at the other side. There's been rumors for a while now that Steam is coming to Xbox. If Steam does come to the next Xbox console, hell, if it even comes to the Series X, I will be willing to buy a discless Xbox. Because if they make the console essentially a PC and open it up to other ecosystems, then I see no reason why I can't use that as like a gateway device. And that, in my opinion, that's going to be what can save console gaming, is if console gaming allows PC gaming to come to it. And they're probably going to have to work out some kind of deals about how people get paid for doing stuff like that. But that's the only way I see consoles surviving. The Xbox Series X will undoubtedly be a better console than the Steam machine, regardless of what Steam is trying to do, what Valve wants to do with it. The Xbox, like I said, is a complete solution. It is a very good system, and it is a very good device to have in your entertainment center. So if they put Steam on that, the Series X will undoubtedly be the better way to play Steam games than actually having a Steam machine, the actual console. There's no doubt about that. The Xbox would be the better way. So if they get Steam and they continue to roll out and they continue to have Steam on Xboxes going forward, if those rumors become true, I will still buy Xbox consoles. That is the only way that happens. If they lose the disc drive, but they have Steam, I would rather have an Xbox that can play Steam games than a discless PlayStation 6 that can only play PlayStation 6, 5, and 4 games. There's no debate about that to me. So I've raised some interesting points here. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. I'd like to know what you think about this. It's probably going to be a divisive topic at some point. Right now, it's the fans of physical media are upset. The fans of digital media are kind of like, what's the big deal? You know, most of those people are probably too young to actually have seen the things that are coming, because history repeats itself. Companies will take your money and give you nothing in return. It happened to the United States government. You want to know why net neutrality was such a big deal? Because the United States government paid corporations like AT&T and Verizon millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money to build out fiber infrastructure to the entire nation so that we didn't have to buffer and limit bandwidth. But what did they do? They took the money and realized, hey, there's nothing that punishes us if we don't do this, so let's not do it. They just took the money and pocketed it. And that's why we ended up with net neutrality being an issue. If they had followed through with what they were supposed to do and rolled out all that fiber, we would have never been buffering people. We would have never had these data caps that exist in certain parts of the country. All that stuff would have went away because look, you might not know this, but 10 gigabit networking was a thing in the early 2000s. These days, they are rolling out single connections, transceivers about this big, about that long, about that wide, that handle 800 gigabytes or gigabits of data throughput. Think about that, 800 gigabits. That's 800 1 gigabit customers. It's actually more because you don't provision for max bandwidth. But you could provide 800 houses of full gigabit networking with one of those transceivers. The technology is there. It is, in fact, it's cheap. I dare you to go to eBay right now and Google, or go to eBay and search how much a 100 gigabit transceiver costs. That stuff is dirt cheap. These corporations have been taking our money and giving us nothing in return. And they will do it as much as they can. And if you let them do it, they will take everything. They will do it all. They will take everything if you open up your wallet to them, they will take your money and give you nothing. So trust me, the corporations will do it. They have done it before. They will do it again. But let me know what your thoughts are. And if you think this kind of content is something that you'd like to see more of, let me know and we'll go from there. My name is Ramsey Musgrove, and this is, I don't know what the name of it is. We'll come up with something, but this is the first video of many. Have a great day.